So poops, ice is cold, water is wet, and schools are for education, not indoctrination. But apparently, that's not obvious in Malaysia. So poops, by this point you probably know about the toilet water sister education reformer, and you might have even signed a petition, and if you did, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. You know, I wanted to say thank you for 200, but then you guys signed too quick. There were even people who were donating and promoting the petition all this while. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for investing in Malaysia's kids. And if you haven't signed the petition yet, go ahead, have a look. I'm not forcing you to sign it, but if you feel that it resonates with you, then go right ahead and put in your name. So this raises an interesting question. Why did everyone sign it so quick? Well, I guess it's because people realize that toilet water sister is the last person in the world who should be talking about education. And again, as I said, schools are for education, not indoctrination. So poops, there's a huge difference between education and indoctrination. We go into the whole etymology definition about how education is about bringing out something within a child, and I'll keep those definitions here, but very broadly, education is teaching people how to think, and indoctrination is teaching people what to think. And you know that what Toilet Water Sister is proposing is almost definitely going to be indoctrination. Bit of a recap there for those of you who are new. Basically, the other day, Anwar Ibrahim's hero celebration for the Sumud Flotilla people, Heliza Helmi, suggested that kids in Malaysia should learn about Palestine so that they can understand the struggles of the Palestinians, although Palestine is not Malaysia. Now, this could be possibly good if this were actually educational, not one-sided, definitely not biased along the way. But then again, this is Malaysia, so I don't have faith in that. And I guess most of you realize that if Heliza gets her way, then the kids are not going to be educated, they are definitely going to be indoctrinated. How? Well, let me count the ways. It didn't start on October 7, it started in 1948. Ignore thousands of years of history. Silence is complicity. Neutrality is siding with the enemy. Moment as Hebrew or Yahudi start screaming at people, burning flags, stepping on them, screaming, Israel Juwa! Israel Juwa! Yes, indeed, we are very, very familiar with that. Thank you. I mean, I don't care if people develop those kinds of perspectives after they've actually reflected upon things, or like outside of school. Maybe they heard it in a religious sermon or something like that. Okay, fine. But the difference here is that if what Heliza suggested actually goes through, it's going to be happening in a public school. And may I remind you that that serves every single person in the country. Unless of course you're rich enough to afford an international school, in which case then good on you. I mentioned in the petition that the Israel-Palestine issue is so complex to the point that it requires you to look at different points of view of history, to have very qualified people to actually deal with this situation, ideally without bias, to understand what is actually legit, what is actually true, what happened on every single side of the conflict along the way. And let's be real here, the whole reason I'm doing this petition in the first place is because I have zero faith in our Ministry of Education to actually do any of this properly. Like, let's be real here. If you have teachers screaming out Israel Jua every single day, how are you gonna train them in the first place? I don't know about that. You already have not enough hours dedicated towards science and math, and you're gonna go right ahead and do this? Like, where are they even going to put this Palestine thing? Are they gonna literally create a new subject, Palestine Studies 101, 1.5 hours per week? If you're not gonna create a brand new subject for that, then what? Like, you're gonna put it in an existing subject so that people can talk about the struggles of Palestine day in and day out, even when it's a language class? Or, oh, I know, maybe they'll put it in Sejarah. That makes a lot of sense, wow. But speaking of Sejarah, I mean, since we're talking about Sejarah, can you honestly say that that subject is unbiased? I mean, like, if it is unbiased, whatever happened to Yap Ah Loy? Did we learn anything about Sabah and Sarawak or MA63 apart from 2 or 3 sad pages where they never even mentioned Lee Kuan Yew beyond like a single page talking about how he created trouble? Oh, and how about those Orang Asis, huh? Did they even exist? Because if they did somehow, then I don't remember any of this. But there's a bigger problem here, which is that there is no critical thinking, and I am 100% convinced that if we actually do a sort of Palestine Palestine curriculum, what's going to happen is that they are going to be going in and then throwing in a narrative that they decide, oh, this is absolutely true, and throw in a whole bunch of things which, at the end of the day, are probably going to be like the UN page on the question of Palestine right here, designed to make people think in a certain way, to articulate in a certain way, and to cite a certain way. Now, those of you who observe correctly that Malaysia is aligned with Palestine from a foreign policy perspective, you could say, Allah, what's the problem? They are wrong. But then, I don't think that you're understanding the point here, because the whole point of education is to actually allow people to think through things in a balanced way and to actually be able to use their minds. Not be going out there and then screaming slogans day in and day out, dressing up as militants. Education has to be education. It has to be about preparing people for a better life, for actually understanding their place in the world. And yes, it is partly about moral values, but you don't get to pick and choose the topics, the moral values that you want to inculcate into people on the basis of twisted narrative, because that's not how you function in the world. If the Prime Minister technically wants, he can actually go out there and go out to Fadlina and say, Fadlina, aku nak masukkan Palestine ke dalam curriculum. Next thing you know, there'll be a whole bunch of so-called professional, so-called expert people doing so-called stakeholder engagements, reviews, engagement, and BPK and our CCC are going to do the hard work of doing independent consultations, even as the government finds a way to play victim and call everybody who doesn't agree not humanitarian, tak bertimbang rasa along the way. But let's be real, none of it is going to be public, and they can come up with pretty much any curriculum that they want along the way. Play victim, we did a consultation, even as they just add on another set of distorted facts, Ministry of Truth level. And the next thing you know, in order to get A+ for Sejarah, every single person has to write Israel is evil. Otherwise, no government scholarship for you. Like, I'm not even gonna lie about it. The whole reason I'm doing this petition right now is to put pressure on the Prime Minister.
It's at about 500 now, so can he really take action without thinking about that? Well, let's make it 1,000 or 2,000 so he can think even more.
So poops, even as we expect our Palestine supporter community not to gaslight us, I think we do have to respect the fact that many people in Malaysia feel a certain way about Palestine. And we have to understand that and we have to respect that. But see, you can't understand or respect if you've been indoctrinated. Because all you can do is just hate, hate, and hate. No middle ground, no debate. Either you go one way or the highway. And I think at the end of the day, if you really want to hate Israel, it would be much better if you hated Israel, not with mindless hatred, but instead after looking at every single detail you can find, every single part of the history, not just a selective part of it. Of course, if you're an adult, then that's your business. You're a big boy now, I respect the way that you go out and choose your information. But if you're a young child, your brain is not mature, you've never learned hatred, but then people are actively telling you that you need to hate this person or that person, never giving you a chance to form your actual picture of the world, they are going to create a generation that cannot do any critical thinking and that can only repeat slogans over and over again. And you might think to yourself that it's just this issue, but it is going to somehow percolate into every single other issue out there, to the point that whenever it comes to anything sensitive or critical, the only thing that our children, our next generation can do will just be to say, ikut, 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 ikut. And truly then shall we know the meaning of true terror is to wake up one morning and realize that your high school class is running the country. And I know Palestine is relevant to a lot of you, although whether it is relevant to all of us in every way apart from every other conflict in the world is a matter for debate. But what's definitely not up for debate is the fact that education is relevant to every single Malaysian regardless of race. This is not a Chinese petition, an Indian petition, nor is it a Malay petition. It's a petition for every single person in Malaysia who cares about education and wants to make sure that our children are well educated to face the needs of an evolving and challenging world. You can't succeed in this fast-paced environment if you're always telling yourself that you have the right answers to every social conflict and you expect the entire world to fall around you. That's a very bad mindset for confronting the world. If you know that you need to follow a different path, then don't go down the beaten path while listening to all of these people out there who have told you over and over again what to believe, what to think. Choose something different. If you refuse to be gaslighted by Malaysian Malaysia's Ministry of Education, sign the petition. If you want a good education for your children, sign the petition. Whether you're Malay, Chinese, Indian, Sikh, Kadazan, Dusun, Dayak, Iban, if you want Malaysian education to truly be world-class, instead of just telling itself that it's world-class while choosing to indoctrinate students that it should be teaching how to think properly, then sign the petition. Write an article about it if you're a journalist, share it in a WhatsApp group, talk about it, or any small thing that you think is going to help us get this message out to the world. Because remember, Malaysian schools should be for education, never for indoctrination. That's all I'll say about that, and bye.